Greetings and welcome to Sunday Bible Chat for the 30th Sunday of the year, 30th Sunday in Ordinary Time that is, and to October the 28th. And our scriptures today are filled with good news. But the good news that we're listening to this day also asks us to pay attention to how we see, and so there's rather a challenge in the readings. Let's begin with the first text from Jeremiah. And in this particular text we have God bringing back the captives from the north, bringing back the people in exile, bringing back the mothers and their children, the lame and the blind, those people who are far from home, and bringing them back, leading them, guiding them on level ground to healing waters, to reinstate them, to bring them good news. So as I listen to that text, I think about the people at our borders here at the United States. Well, they haven't quite arrived at our borders yet. Right now, 5,000 people are heading through Mexico or trying to get into Mexico so as to make it to the United States. And you might ask, well, what has this got to do with Sunday Bible Talk? It has to do with our first reading. It has to do with the whole question of seeing. How do we see these people? Are they marauders? Are they criminals? Are they people who are trying to destroy our economy, destroy our way of life? Or is God asking us to see them through God's eyes, to see them as people in need, as desperate people in need of humanitarian relief, as desperate people fleeing genocide, domestic violence, life-destroying poverty, people who are looking for an opportunity to actually survive in this world? And so then, if we can see the caravan people in these terms, if we see the Guatemalans and El Salvadorans and Hondurans not as just migrants trying to force their way across our borders, but rather as people desperate for humanitarian relief, perhaps we will respond to them differently. Now, I'm not suggesting policy here. I'm not suggesting an open door policy. I am suggesting that we change our way of seeing. Because if we can see differently, then perhaps we can find a different response that is more humane. The different response, I would imagine, would begin by looking at the home countries of these desperate people and seeing what we can do to alleviate their conditions. And this is not just true for Central America or Mexico, it's also true for the other parts of the world that people are fleeing. Syria, for example, other parts of the world where people are in desperate situations. As long as we allow that desperation to continue, as long as we see the people as other and not our responsibility, then they're going to break out of their countries and try and make it to countries where they feel they will have more opportunities. But if we see them as people in need of our compassion and our love, if we see them the way God sees them, then rather than seeing them as the problem, we will look at the problems they are facing in their own countries and help right those wrongs there, to create a new life for them there in their own countries and their own places, so they do not have to flee, so they do not have to be afraid of death squads and gangs and violence. As long as we are seeing the people in this caravan and the people trying to cross seas and other migrants everywhere, as long as we see them as the enemy, we are not seeing them the way God sees. In fact, I would say that there's a real inconsistency between labeling immigrants or would-be immigrants, between labeling them as criminals, as rapists, as murderers. That does not fit a religious worldview, let alone a spiritual worldview. How can we call ourselves Christian or Muslim or Hindu or Jewish if we are banning our brothers and sisters from finding a better life? The same God who calls out in outrage over injustice calls on us to find a just solution to the problems facing immigrants everywhere. And that's not to build walls and have draconian laws regarding separating parents from their children or sending children home alone without their parents, but rather it involves creativity, it involves financing, and it involves some vision. How can we make the world a better place? If we can make the world a better place, then perhaps we dare call ourselves religious. Otherwise, perhaps we should take down the shingle and call ourselves religious less. And that, my friends, is my message for Sunday Bible Chat for the 28th day in October, which happens to be the 30th Sunday in Ordinary Time.